Hi, heroes. I'm Stan Lee. And, man, I hope this is as big a thrill for you as it is for me. But I'm here with two of my favorite people in the comic book business, in fact, in the whole world. Ring-a-ding Romita, who hates that nickname, Johnny Romita, and Johnny Romita Jr., and I'll kill him for wearing that red shirt and getting all the attention here today. But Johnny Sr., you're the guy who, I guess you go back as far as I do at Marvel Comics. We've worked together on 50 million projects. As far as I'm concerned, you're probably not only one of the best artists in the business, but certainly one of the most versatile. I don't think there's a type of strip you haven't done, and magnificently. And Johnny Jr. is threatening to be better than you are. And not only that, he's following... Well, we were just talking about something before we started the taping here, where you had created the Punisher costume. And now what is it? Well, let's show the Punisher first. Which of these is the Punisher?
That's the Punisher.
All right, here's the Punisher Warzone. Now, you're the guy, I wonder if we have a good picture of his costume in here.
Of the Punisher?
Yeah.
He's in this.
Well, this is a reasonably, I don't know how much you see of the costume, but that's our Punisher, thanks to John's design. Now, what is it you're doing that's very similar?
I have a character called Shotgun, and it's kind of another version of Punisher as far as I'm concerned, but it's the African-American version of the Punisher. And he's just a...
Oh, here he is.
A very bad guy.
Now, didn't you have another picture of him somewhere that...
yes, in the book.
Was it one of the books? Let's see that one, too, because I think you get a better... He looks a little more
he's
heroic.
He's a bad, good guy, if you'll excuse the expression.
What you mean is he's bad.
Yes.
B-A-A-A-D.
This is he.
Yeah, and I have a feeling that this guy is going to be a very popular Marvel hero. It's funny, we have a number of black superheroes. They have become incredibly popular, and there are a number of them now being developed for motion pictures, and who knows, he may be the next. Now, there was something else you had mentioned that you two were doing that was kind of coincidental.
Well, you and I had worked on the Green Goblin many times, and John did the updated version of him called the Hobgoblin.
The Hobgoblin, that's right.
A little bit more severe.
But that wasn't fair because it was such an easy costume. I just based it on the Green Goblin. You guys did most of the work, and I got credit for redesigning the character.
But you know, it's funny. We better watch what we do because it doesn't matter what we did. Yeah. He's going to find a way to embellish on it,
and I'll take all the credit for it.
Well, of course.
I'm afraid we're stuck with that. So.
Hey, John, let me ask you, what was the first thing that we did together about 1 million years ago?
Well, I worked for you back in the late 40s, early 50s.
He says for me. He bossed me around all the time.
But I was ghosting for you for a while. But that was before the explosion in 1960 with the Fantastic Four.
Well, what were you doing? Were those romance strips?
We did romance, we did war, we did westerns. I did a western series for you called The Western Kid.
That's right.
We did every science fiction.
That's right.
Some mystery stories. And I got a great foundation course there. And then after I left the distinguished competition doing romance stories for a long time, I came back in 1965 and we worked on Daredevil together.
I thought he was a transient. He was up in the attic for 3 or 4 days. He'd come back with a beard and dirty fingernails. I didn't know what he was doing.
He had no interest in my career.
I thought he was a drunk or something. I don't know.
While I was doing those nondescript characters, he had no interest in my career. As soon as I did Daredevil, he suddenly realized he had a father.
It was Daredevil. It was Daredevil number 12. It was with Kazar.
How do you remember those
things? Because it was like the first thing that ever stuck on my mind. I was so used to seeing women kissing men and balloons. He was doing the lettering. Yeah. I didn't know what he was doing, and I'd be bored and I'd go back down the stairs. And then all of a sudden I came up one day and he was doing Daredevil number 12. Right. I think you were doing you were working on the cover, weren't you?
Yep.
He was working on the cover, and the logo was on already. And I asked him, I said, what's going on here? And that guy didn't have a chance because Daredevil is surrounded by about 5 of the Plunderer's men and Kazars. And he explains the whole thing to me and explains who Daredevil is. And I think the light bulb hit me on top of the head just like that, boom, suddenly, this is it.
Suddenly I was a respected parent.
And show and tell at school from now on.
It's really funny. When Johnny came to us after leaving D.C., I wanted you to do Daredevil and adventure strips, and everybody said to me, well, you can't let him do that. He does romance strips. And I said, you idiots, this guy is an artist. It doesn't matter what he does.
Didn't John Reporton think you had disappeared?
He thought I had died. Yeah. John Reporton, he thought he said, I'm sorry, your father died.
Yeah. Well, and then, remember Steve Ditko had been doing Spider-Man magnificently, and then when he decided he didn't want to do any more Spider-Man, and we had to look around for, he was just tired of Spider-Man, we had to look around for another artist. Who did I pick? I figured, well, there's one guy I can always depend on, John Romita, and again, everybody said, John draws these handsome, heroic characters, these real macho-looking, great-looking guys, and here Peter Parker is just kind of a wimpy, nebbishy, nerdy kid, and you can't have John do that. He'll ruin the script. And Steve Ditko is so stylized, and John's style is so different. And I guess that's what's so really great about me. I said I want him to do it. And do you remember the first few strips you did? It really looked like Steve's artwork. I don't know how you did it.
Well, I was trying to ghost it because, frankly, between you and me, I thought I was only on it temporarily.
Yeah.
I thought he would come back.
I was tell you were doing too pretty stuff. Stuff was too pretty. You used to tell me.
More than once
doing
you told me I did them too handsome.
Well, I had to keep you on the straight and narrow.
You finally gave up and said, okay, if that's the way you're going to do Peter Parker, let's do Peter Parker.
Well, you know what happened? No. Your first few were just like Ditko.
Yes, exactly.
Then you began to backslide. Then, in my infinite wisdom, I realized that nobody can do his best artwork or her best artwork unless the artist is doing it the way he or she wants to do it, the way he feels it. So I figured, okay, it's going to be your strip. Little by little, we'll have to let you get into your style. It took a while. You were real good about it. You didn't immediately do a Romita.
You were a sport, too.
Yeah, but you slowly got into it. And how many issues did you do?
I did about 6 years. The only thing is you used to sprinkle in a lot of other emergency projects at the time. Captain America, Fantastic Four.
We couldn't have stayed in business without you. Any time there was an emergency, call Romita, you know. And you were always
I was also there
it.
in the office, remember.
Yeah.
I was available.
That's absolutely
available
right.
Jones.
Yeah, that's right. Because most of the artists were freelancers. We couldn't get rid of you, though.
Right.
You were always there. And you know, you're right. You thought Spider-Man would be a temporary job because I was afraid to tell you I wanted you permanently because I was afraid you wouldn't want to do it. So I practiced my usual deceitful methods. John, just do one more issue. Oh, come on, one more. We'll find somebody. Don't worry. Before he knew it, it was 6 years.
Can I tell you the things he used to say about you when
How
you came
can I
home?
stop you?
Are we going to get bleeped?
No, you better not.
Well, I
Stan's
couldn't
got me
believe
doing
that
this.
Steve Ditko would walk away from a 3-year success story.
Well,
I
Steve had
thought
his
for sure
reasons.
in 3 or 4 months he'd come back and just take it over again. So,
but he did.
It was quite an
I was
experience.
the luckiest. Well, Marvel was the luckiest company in the world because Steve was so great and he got that strip off so magnificently. And then we had you who put your imprimatur on it, and it did better than ever. And then the people later on did a wonderful job. There's something about
we've had a
Spider-Man.
good run on that book,
Yeah, it just
including
goes
John
on.
Jr. Did it for a few months.
Now, speaking of John Jr. in the red shirt, who's getting all the attention, what did it feel like? I mean, when did you decide you wanted to be an artist? Was it after you saw your dad do Daredevil or what?
It wasn't a specific day. I knew I wanted to get into it, but I didn't know if I was going to be an artist. And I started reading it left and right, and that's when I started coming up to the office. I wanted to jump into it. As far as being an artist, I didn't think I would ever be good enough because you always have something to compare yourself to.
Yeah.
And as I got better and better, and I realized it was the only thing I could do, I said maybe I should be an artist. And he kept on saying, "You're crazy, kid. Don't do it. Be a construction worker. Be a painter.
You don't know what it's like working for that guy."
And I used to
Well, I
watch
told
him
him
kill himself 7 days a week, and I said, "Well, I
Couldn't
still
believe
think I
he'd
could
want to be in
do
the
it."
same business.
And he used to tell me, "Don't do it." And I realized that the only thing I could do, I was too short for sports. And
But you remember, Stan, that he suggested a character to us called the Prowler?
Yeah.
And you gave him credit. He was 13
that's
years
right.
old.
And we did it in Spider-Man.
And he
in the
was
strip.
walking this high off the ground for about a month because his name was in the books. And that was the way he got launched. That's once he got a taste of
he
that.
tried to talk me out of it several times,
many
and
times.
I wouldn't listen to him. But then, how many sons listen to their
Suicide,
father?
I thought.
Yeah. It was a little trick I learned. Instead of paying people, you gave them a little credit in the book. And that went on for years before they got wise. You remember?
Yeah.
So anyway, how old were you when you decided, when you started drawing?
I think I was 5 or 6 when I was actually doodling, and then I
of a
started
gun.
getting serious in high school. When you're in high school and you draw anything that's not stick figure, people think you're a genius.
Yeah.
So your ego gets pumped in high school, and then as I got better and better, and I literally drew more than I did anything else. I would on the back of my books and everything, just like everybody else.
Did you criticize it, Johnny?
Actually, he never let me look at his stuff. He used to say, I don't think it's good enough to show you yet. And he never showed me any artwork. He came to work up at the office summers. And he helped out doing sketches. He worked for for Saul Brodsky and Marie Severin, and I never hired them. They did it. They did it behind my back. And
this was anti-nepotism.
Right. I refused to put him in that spot.
That's the term I got. Scott Edelman came into the office and said, I don't believe in nepotism, but I don't believe in anti-nepotism.
Yeah,
he said,
funny,
so I'm going to give you something
yeah.
to do. And he gave me some 6-page Spider-Man backup story.
Well, you know, in a little while, because I want to keep our viewers in suspense, we'll be going over to that drawing board, and I think it'll be interesting to see how the two of you draw and how there's a great similarity, but yet a difference in your styles, which I find very interesting. Johnny, the way you draw, to my mind, is absolute perfection. It's clear and clean and crisp, and I always loved it. Everybody loved it. The way you draw is more in the style that they're doing it today. It's sort of the cutting edge, where it's got a little more emotion to it, a little more excitement to it, and they're both good styles, but there is a difference. One is a little bit the way it was, one is the way it is now. The funny thing is, I know that if I said to Johnny right now, okay, I want you to draw it the way he's doing it, or the way all the guys are doing it today, you know, it might take you an hour or two before you can catch up.
Mine is, my style
I wonder about that.
My style is a deadline style. Whatever comes out on time is okay. I never was conscious of the way it looked, but I imagined it as his stuff or John Buscema's stuff when I was doing it. It was up here, and when it got out my fingers, it looked like my stuff. I was really upset with that.
I know.
But it's the deadline
He made no
style.
bones about it, Stan.
Yeah.
He never tried to emulate me.
Yeah.
And I think that was a great idea.
I did up here. It just never came out that way.
Speaking of a deadline style, I've told this story before about you, Johnny. I don't want to embarrass you, but you know, I was always...
Leave that to me.
But what's wrong with embarrassing him? So I always used to say, if only you draw faster, because you're so good, I want to give you more strips. Which, of course, is that you don't tell a guy who's working you're so good because he might want more money. But Johnny, if you gave him a compliment, that was good enough. That was in lieu of money. Anyway,
Right.
He always used to say, I'm drawing as fast as I can. I'm not as fast as those other guys. And it wasn't true. You were as fast or faster than any artist in the business. But I used to tell you, you're too much of a perfectionist. This guy would draw a picture that anybody else would have framed, and he'd say, well, it isn't quite right, I'll do it over. In the meantime, I'm waiting for the strip. No, I want to make it better, I'll do it over. And I used to say, your worst drawing is better than anybody else's. Let it go, and you wouldn't do it. But I guess you have to hand it to you. You were a perfectionist.
Couldn't help it.
The problem is you were married. See,
Yeah.
if you had been single and then got married while you were working, you would have been faster because the bills would have started piling up. That's what happened to me.
You know, if I had thought of that, I'd have found some way to bust up that marriage. It never occurred to me. Why didn't you tell me?
My editor-in-chief says the same thing. I'm glad you get married because you'll be putting out more
Producing more work.
work. And it
Wait, do
was
you mean
partially true.
You need money more when you're single? I never thought of that.
When you're planning to get married, you mean.
Well, there's more spare time, more free time when you're single.
Son of a gun.
And plus, nobody's spending your money for you. And she's going to kill me when she sees it.
Well, you don't have
love
to
you,
worry.
honey.
The
Don't worry
chances
about
are
it.
nobody will ever see this video today. And we're all safe. We're all safe.
She's going to shoot me, though.
Yeah. Now, let me ask you one thing. Of all the strips you've drawn, I want to ask both of you this. You haven't drawn quite as many, but you've still been around a while, and you're doing some magnificent stuff. Johnny, you first. What are your favorite? Do you have a favorite? I mean, what type of strips do you like the best?
I would have loved to have done Terry and the Pirates.
Really?
So that goes back to my childhood.
Because as a
Terry
child,
and
it was a strip you loved,
I just
right?
used to dive into Terry and the Pirates
Yeah.
every Sunday
Milton
and stay
Caniff.
there for 3 hours.
Yeah.
I absorbed him through my pores. Daredevil, I think Daredevil was probably the most natural because even though 6 years of Spider-Man and 4 years on the strip, I never felt quite at home with Spider-Man. I always felt like it was someone else's strip.
Because you didn't start it.
And I didn't start Daredevil, but for some reason Daredevil was more natural to me. That was probably the most natural strip.
Maybe it's because the guy who started it drew it in such a different style and only did the one, you know, Bill Everett, he only did the
right.
one book.
Yeah.
So then you still felt like you were establishing the style.
It could be. Wally Wood had sort of set the pace there,
Yeah,
but I felt a little bit.
Yeah, because nobody
more in
had
control.
really established the definitive style.
I was
until
myself
you.
immediately.
Yeah. You know, incidentally, I might add that when you mentioned you worked on the strip, you're referring to the Spider-Man newspaper strip, which you did for 1,000,000 years also before you left me to wallow by myself in this thing. How about you, Johnny? What are your favorite type of strips?
The favorite type, I don't know. As far as the favorite things that I've done is the stuff I'm going to do because I'm not
The
really...
favorite things you've done is the stuff you're going to do.
Yeah.
I can see why you haven't been on too many talk shows.
Only because I'm not... Everything I've done has always been room for improvement. I see so many things that I can do now
well, you're
that I
not
couldn't
going
do
to become
yesterday.
a perfectionist like
No,
him and miss your
everything
deadline.
I've done,
still
I feel
gonna be
like
fast.
everything I've done, I feel like I could have done better. So I'm going to say the stuff I'm about to do is going to be my favorite stuff. I guess the Punisher stuff, because I'm doing it now, I'm happy with. I'm more comfortable with this character than any character I've done before. I guess I could say the Punisher. And he's Italian, which is great because I have a little inroad into that character. So I know how people draw. I know what noses look like, a couple of busted noses. And so if I had to pick somebody, I'd say the Punisher now. And but I still say the stuff I'm going to do is going to be better than anything I've done, only because I'm getting better as I get older.
Yeah, and I'm glad you feel that way because it's so great after having done a lot of things to be that enthusiastic about the new things.
I can't wait to see what happens the next time because I do things from one day better than I did the day before, just because you've been alive 24 hours longer. So I still have so much to learn. It's ridiculous, and that's the exciting part about it. So when I'm 95 years old, maybe
you'll have it. You'll keep at it until you get it.
And he also adds an element of design that me as a human figure artist, I think of human beings first. He designs the pages and the panels with a lot more punch and a lot more.
Yeah.
And I think in books like this, the Hearts of Darkness book, with all the tremendous imagination at work and all sorts of varieties of creations and demonic stuff. I think the generation that John represents
is a
Jim
demonic
Lee's
generation.
Yeah, they do a lot of this very strong imaginative stuff, and I think it's very good, very popular.
Well, obviously. Tell you what, we've been talking about artwork for a while. How about a little demonstration from both of you? And I've got an idea that may be wacky, but let's try it. What do you say we get over to the drawing board?
That sounds good to
Okay.
me.
Okay?
Yep.
Hey, well, here we are at the famous comic book greats drawing board, which, of course, one day will be deeded to the Smithsonian Institution. And I've been thinking, I was just wondering, since both of you draw and both of you ink, wouldn't it be fun if you penciled a face, a figure, whatever, and you ink it, Johnny, and then, Johnny, if you pencil something and your dad inks it.
I'm glad I thought of that.
And we'll be able to get a feeling of the different styles and how you work and so forth, and it'll keep us going for a few minutes.
Maybe he could ink everything I do, so fix it.
Now, John Senior, they tell me that you have been known to draw an attractive female once or twice in the past. And I know you must be bored with these very muscular superheroes. So, as a favor, do you think you could handle an attractive woman that would kind of fill us all with awe and admiration?
Handle a muscular, attractive woman, right? The
Whatever.
Current bodybuilding today. Yeah, I think there are some tips to be learned about drawing women. One of the things that a lot of young artists fail to do is to keep females uncluttered and to keep their lines graceful and smooth, even if it's
Make the lines dark enough where the camera won't catch. And if the camera misses one of your lines, I won't sleep tonight, because those lines are precious. Now go ahead and tell us about the uncluttered lines.
You draw women because of your cologne, Dad, so don't think about anything.
And the thing is that there's a symmetry and a simplicity that's necessary with women that must be adhered to. Otherwise, you end up with a lot of bony 5 o'clock shadow women. I think most young artists just are so used to drawing powerful beings and horses and spaceships, and that they sort of neglect the business of drawing women. And I think that they have to be conscious of the simplicity and yet the interesting silhouette. And that's what I generally put into the stuff. If I've gained any kind of recognition drawing women, it's because I've managed to keep that simple premise in mind.
You could do this for a living, you know that?
I want to tell you, I am so glad you're doing this, because there are so many people who have never seen the women you do, and who may have thought I was exaggerating when I was talking.
He does women, boy.
Oh, I got to tell you. You know, one of the reasons I realized that I was so fond of my wife was she always reminded me of a Romita drawing.
Now, that's interesting, because when I was a kid and watched Milton Caniff's female characters, I thought of them as live creatures, and I mean, I would fall in love with them, and I would care whether they lived or died, and it's the kind of a thing that stays with you. I mean, my formative years, my early teens, when Milton Caniff was doing Terry and the Pirates, all of his female characters were tremendously important characters.
Well, now I'm going to tell a little secret.
Yeah.
Your family has told me this is a little-known Romita secret. When the dragon lady died, nobody told you because they were afraid it would be too traumatic a shock to you. And I think that was very nice.
That's not too far from the truth, because Kniff used to do that, which something that you and I did at later years, killed off a major character in Spider-Man. Yeah. When Kniff had a female character die, that was the first time I was aware that people on the street would discuss comic characters, and they would mention that.
But you were a little tacky. I mean, wearing black for the next 6 months was going too far.
Is it true you saw a lady in Manhattan that was like the basis for Mary Jane, or is that just a joke?
No.
Are you kidding me?
You mean Stan or me?
No, either one of you. I don't know. I thought I heard that story.
No,
once.
actually, he left it rather open to me how to interpret her. Actually, I think I based her partially on Anne Margaret.
Yeah, that's right.
I used Anne Margaret dimples and a cleft in the chin, and some of the full face smile that she had, because we were trying to make a girl that was very with it and very modern. And,
John, do you remember that it started out where Gwen Stacy was Spider-Man, Peter Parker's girlfriend,
yes,
and we planned he'd eventually marry her.
Yes.
And then we introduced Mary Jane into the strip, and it was as though they were living creatures. We couldn't make Gwen as interesting as Mary Jane.
Yes.
Mary Jane took over the strip,
But
and Gwen was gorgeous, too.
That was the way it was supposed to be. She was
No,
supposed to be
we
the
hadn't planned it that way.
No, Stan, actually, it was the time you were saying, let's see if we can make Gwen outshine Mary Jane.
And we couldn't.
And you kept accusing me of
Drawing
doing
Mary
my
Jane.
favorite character better than your favorite character, and I could not manage to make.
I know.
Remember, I couldn't make Gwen have as much verve
That's
and
right.
excitement about her because she was more reserved and more mature.
She was the typical ingenue, and Mary Jane had all that life and that spark, and we kept saying, we've got to do something to make Gwen just as appealing, and we couldn't do it.
couldn't do it.
That dialogue back in the 60s was just, you face it, Tiger. You hit the jackpot.
That panel, do you know that the competition has used that same panel in stories? I've noticed it in other books.
They've done a takeoff on it.
I hope. It was an intentional takeoff?
I think so. I
Well,
think it was
I'm very
sort of,
flattered.
or
Just
maybe
face-
an
little face up
insider.
here when you get a
Yeah.
chance.
A face
I love your
of
faces.
a face of what?
Of
Gwen?
whomever.
Want me
Just
to do a face of
woman.
Gwen?
Listen, do we really... Oh, yeah, why not do that?
Okay.
Do we really want John Jr. to ink this? I mean, do you trust him with this? This is
You know
too
what?
good.
I don't have to ink this, but if I pencil something, I'd like him to save it. So maybe we could have him ink mine.
All right. If you want me to try and
That's
help
why
your
when you.
stuff
That's
out
why
on-
I did a Spider-Man annual that you inked. That
Yeah.
Roger Stern wrote, and we created another black character named Captain Marvel,
Captain Marvel, a female version
who was
of
supposed
Captain
to be
Marvel.
Pam Grier. You know Pam Grier, the
Sure,
actress?
sure.
I was supposed to do
The black actress.
Yes,
Yeah.
I was supposed to do her. We didn't
Yeah.
get a chance to get the exact likeness, but by the time he had inked it,
Uh-huh.
everything was fixed. It was amazing. All my mistakes fixed to the point I didn't know I had done anything.
Well,
on
that
it.
was still in the period when you needed help.
Oh, thanks. You never told me that when I was working on it.
No, you were looking for a little bit of help. I gave it to you. Very little help.
You told. You're such a liar. You told me it was fine. Oh, this is wonderful. Don't worry, I won't change anything.
What do you want me to do? Destroy your confidence when you were 21 years old? You don't want me to do that.
Well, you're destroying it now. Now I'm really.
If anyone wants to know why I have always been a Romita fan, I think we're seeing it right here.
Well,
Man,
see,
that's
you'll
good.
notice another. I always had a darker lipstick on Mary Jane.
Yeah,
and
that's
always
right,
a very
that's
pale
right.
lipstick on Gwen. She was a lady, and Mary Jane was a sort of a tramp.
Yeah. Well, I never thought of her that way.
base her on anybody you know.
Well, you're talking about Peter Parker's wife. Now, can we just stop tape and do this over again?
You know, this is great. My wife comes up in a character that I designed in Daredevil. Her name is Typhoid Mary. And people
I
say,
love that character.
people
It was
ask
brilliant.
me, where'd you get the idea for Typhoid Mary?
Yeah.
So when my wife came out of the bathroom ready for work one day, she had one of them high-shouldered outfits on. Her hair was out like this.
That was it.
So Typhoid Mary is based on my wife, and she's a schizophrenic, homicidal maniac. Well, no, that part.
She's
Loosely
going to
based.
love this when she sees
No,
it.
that character is
She
based on
knows
her
about
visually
that, yeah.
because
That
in
she
order
knows
to
about.
creating a beautiful character is easy from photographs. But I said this has got to be a live thing. I was in the process of creating a character visually, and she comes walking out of the bathroom with this great outfit on, and she has carried a couple of machetes at times. So I figured this is a great reason to put her in there.
Well, let me ask you now, which one, Johnny, of these do you want to ink? The face or the figure?
Humana. I'll do the face just for time's sake, all right?
All right, great.
Okay.
And
I
then
guess
you'll
we
do a face, and your dad will ink it. Hey,
Okay.
I got to tell you, that's just beautiful.
Well,
I'm telling you, you can do this.
He'll destroy it. He'll
what can he say?
absolutely ruin it. Go ahead.
And inking is not my forte.
You want to use this?
And now you're
Do
about
I
to
get
prove
do I get a critique as I'm doing this?
Well, I'll tell you when, when you're going off.
Thanks. I appreciate it. And this is this stupid wrist of mine. I have to do things so butt backwards.
What's the matter with your wrist?
I broke it when I was very young.
Oh.
That's good.
Yeah, from patting yourself on the back ever since you started getting these strips to do.
No, I fell off the monkey bars in Dick Van Patten's backyard.
Really?
Yes.
Yeah.
My claim to fame.
Hey, speaking of getting strips to do, didn't you once do some layouts on the Spider-Man newspaper strip?
Yes, I did.
Yeah.
And you didn't remember it the week after I did it, Stan. I came walking down the hall. What are you working on lately, Jenny? Stan, I just did a couple of
Well,
issues.
that's probably because I never told him you did it. I kept all credit to myself.
I've never been known for my memory.
That was with Dr. Doom in it in the UN, if you remember that.
Yeah, the
That
first
was,
sequence. Right.
That was such a great story. I've always wanted to redo that or reprint it.
I really enjoyed doing that. It was a real pleasure.
We had all sorts of all-star international characters.
Yeah,
Indira Gandhi in there.
That's
and
right. I didn't do that stuff for you guys.
I put Sadat
threw
in
that
there.
in
I
there.
don't think Sadat was at the UN, but I put him in there, I think.
Well, that was...
Well, you were lazy. You put in whoever you could draw.
and doing that drawing was what caused him to get shot. So you should feel bad about that.
As long as they didn't shoot the artist.
Yeah, they didn't know where Johnny lived, so they got Sadat. Well, I must admit, you're not doing a bad job, youngster.
He has a modicum of talent, the kid.
Yeah, I'd say so.
I'm not used to using
He's
brushes.
got a future.
Well, I want to say the strips that Johnny Jr. has been doing are just great, because I've been seeing them. How do you sign, I keep forgetting, how do you sign your name?
JR.
J.R.
I'm not really a junior, actually. This is not that important. You're not going to lose any sleep over it. But I'm a John S. I'm a John S. and he's a John V. But
so that means it's not a junior. It's
not
the
a
middle initial
right.
is. I see.
But
I
we
didn't know
had so
that.
many Johns in the office when I was working up on staff. There
They
was John
started calling
McCorton and
him
John
Yeah.
Tartaglione.
Yeah.
Got to call him Junior, right?
So now you sign it J.R.
Yeah. Which is, it's real easy to sign it, and it's fun.
That's a guy who's real conceited. He does it twice.
So good a name, they named it twice, I know.
I got to tell you, you're really
J.R.
doing
J.R.
justice.
from New York, New York.
You're doing justice to that. That's beautiful.
I don't think so. I don't know what I'm doing.
Well, your dad never did either, so it's okay.
You got to let yourself go with the flow, like Luke Skywalker.
How would you be critiquing this if you were, Johnny?
I would just tell him
Don't
to
work
use
on
less
camera.
lines on the blonde hair.
And don't
things
work
like
on
that.
camera is what you should tell me to do.
Yeah, you still like it more simple and open.
Well,
right?
still you have to do it. When you're working on large expanse like that, you don't have much choice, even with blondes.
yeah.
I'm also, I'm just not real good with a brush at this point. I'm better with a pen.
All right,
Making
now tell you
enough
what we're
excuses or
going to
what?
do. Somebody is going to, you're going to write J.R. in the corner.
Yeah.
Okay.
And you know what I'm leading up to, of course.
Yeah.
And then you'll owe me some money, because when I take this home to frame it, I'll just send you the bill. And Johnny, you're going to write whatever the heck it is you write.
Right. I'm just going to write.
Now you're going to see a signature. Now you're going to see one. Look at that. Is that modest?
go.
Just a
Unbelievable.
simple Romita? Low key.
And that is not my age. That is the year.
Stanley, should I
92.
put red on this? No, red really bothers you.
You don't have to. I'll always remember. Okay, now, if you guys would switch, we'll have
All right, so I
Junior
have to
do
pencil?
this, who is
Do a
not a
pencil.
junior.
All right, I'll
He's
pencil.
going to pencil something.
Not
out.
really.
J.R. is
John,
gonna
not
pencil.
really junior. Okay.
Right.
And Lord knows what it is he's going to pencil.
I don't know what
I don't even think you know at this moment, do you?
No. I see glue on the pencil, so I'll never put it down.
What happens if you can't think of anything and we sit here and the tape is rolling?
Tequila.
Pencil.
Okay.
We're going to take a trip to Mexico. Is that what you said?
Oh, yeah.
You both hold the pencil the same way. You hold it like a typical artist loose sketching method, right?
Well, it's just to give you a base to start with, and then you get crazy afterwards.
That's a trick that John Buscema taught us, so that you don't get too finicky with your first lines.
And then if you get something you don't like, you just do a little harder line over it, and it disappears, and the best line comes out.
I always figure the way you guys draw is so easy. I mean, you put a lot of lines down, then you look at them, whichever one looks right,
You
that's
pick
the
out-
line, right?
You pick out the ones
I
that
mean,
are closest to what you want.
Who couldn't do that?
Well, you remember, that's what they said about Michelangelo. They said, how do you do a sculpture of say, David?
Right,
They say,
right.
Cut away everything that doesn't look like
Doesn't
David,
look
right?
like it, right?
Now, that's a paraphrase. It's usually it's about an elephant.
I got to tell you, I thought what you were doing was this was a big hat, a sombrero, and that was the brim, and this was going to be a figure, and it was going to be some guy taking a nap.
What do you know?
Shows what a great art director I am.
That's right. You were art director at a point.
right.
You covered every single job, didn't you?
Now you see what we were up against, trying to get him to
Oh, I'm telling you the things he said about you, Stan.
Legitimate.
I'm telling you.
Yeah, I can imagine. It couldn't have been easier. It was so easy to be an art director with guys like Johnny working there. I mean, he did the work. I took the credit. We had the greatest arrangement you could have.
All right, I'm not supposed to put any expression in the mouth. Is that what Will Eisner said? Eyes have all the expression?
Well,
Now
he
I'm in
meant they
trouble.
have a great deal of expression, but certainly you get a lot
can-
with the mouth.
You can curl a lip if you
Like Elvis. Without Elvis, we'd never have curled lips in comics.
Don't look so complacent about this, Romita, because you're going to have to ink
You get to
this.
save this.
So you better hope that this will be good
Yeah.
and inkable. He's thinking to himself, why doesn't he
All right, should I
simplify
put a big
it?
gun in this to
Am I
drive
gonna
me
have
even
to
more
put all
crazy?
the-
Well, we want to get some foreshortening in there to show the young artists how to get out of the curse of the two
I have
dimensions.
advice for young artists. Don't
Take another field.
Don't eat fried foods. Stay away from them. They'll kill you.
Tell him what you mean by foreshortening, Johnny.
Well, foreshortening is a drawing trick that enables comic artists to simulate the depth in the scene. One of the hardest problems comic artists have is to defeat that illusion of that two-dimension limit, and to get that three-dimension on the figures so that the reader feels like he's looking in on an actual scene instead of a picture of a scene.
Weren't you saying earlier, just before we started taping, that the most, and I'd like you to amplify this if you would, one of the most important things is to take these two-dimensional drawings and make them three-dimensional in some way?
Yeah, I think that's the biggest challenge that a young comic artist has to face and defeat. He has to find a way to convince a reader that he's not looking at just a drawing of something, that he's looking at something happening. Once you get a reader to believe that, they start to care what happens, instead of just saying subconsciously, this is just a drawing, nobody's getting hurt, don't worry about it.
Yeah.
That's the first thing I tell young artists is you've got to get that illusion down pat.
That somebody's getting hurt.
Well, that something
Our
is
bloodthirsty
happening,
friend over there.
so that you don't have this
know what you
complacency.
mean. Yeah.
Once you remember you're in a movie theater, and somebody is getting a shot, say on the screen, and you're just aware that it's a film and that there's a director off camera, there's no caring. But if you forget you're in a theater, and somebody is getting shot and you care what happens to that character, that's the illusion you're after. And that's what we're after in comics.
That's every time I've drawn a page, I've always imagined the scene that I'm doing as a movie scene.
Yeah.
Just because I can imagine what is the next stage. If I guess I over tell a story sometimes. If a guy's walking across the street, I like to see him stepping down off the curb, crossing the center line, so on and so forth. And I learned that from him and the editor-in-chief I had at the time when I was working on my first books. And I kind of, ever since then, I've worked that way, almost cinematically. Imagine I have to establish a certain scene. I don't think there's enough backgrounds in comics these days. I think guys cheat too much, and I don't name names, but I tend to put maybe too many backgrounds in. But I'd like to imagine that somebody says, I know where we are. We're in the middle of Manhattan. That's a crowded street, and I managed to put in every car and every person in that scene, and my inkers hate my guts for it. But I can't help it. I want to be able to believe it myself, and if I can't believe it myself...
that's a good point. And it's interesting when you compare it to movies, because I cannot tell you how, ever since I've moved to Los Angeles and I've become Joe Hollywood, and, you know, I keep talking to people in the movie business, and they are so impressed with comics, and they themselves feel that comics are so akin to motion pictures. You know, I remember at New York University in New York once, they had they probably still do, they taught a film course, and they used a Spider-Man story that you had drawn, that I had written, and it was in their textbook, the whole story, and they gave examples of the camera angles and cuts and breaks and so forth based on that story.
One of the most satisfying times of our careers, because I think that was one of the biggest compliments I was ever given, because they did not discuss anything except the variety of shots, angles, close-ups, long shots, and I think that was probably my finest moment in comics.
Yeah. No, I would think being here today is undoubtedly
up to now, it was my finest moment.
What could ever top this?
That's what a comic book artist is a director in a movie, as far as
Now,
I'm
Johnny,
concerned.
what have you drawn here? I'm looking at it
I don't
upside
know.
down.
But I'm going to ask him to save it, though.
Oh, great. This is someone
Punisher.
like the
This-
Punisher.
yeah,
It is
Someone
it
like
is
the
the
Punisher.
Punisher.
Some
All right.
reasonable facsimile.
Now, I would say, because just to prove what a good art director I am and how I can analyze these things so acutely, I would say that this fellow is angry and he's attempting to cause some sort of bodily harm to somebody for whom he has an intense dislike. Would you say that's an accurate interpretation?
I think he's intending to cause bodily harm even if he doesn't dislike the person.
Good point.
I think John is now going to probably chastise me for making changes.
Hold it one second.
Are you going to change something?
Your son has made a very graceful curved line like
We've
that.
been butting heads over this for 35 years.
You, on the other hand, have
I'm
done
an art
something
director.
like
Remember,
that.
I'm an art director.
I didn't change
can't
anything
help
on Gwen's face. Don't change
Now,
anything.
now, what is the reason for doing this rather than
Because he's the art director, Stan.
Well, I'll tell you, Frank, that's what Klaus Janson would have done.
But this looks better, too.
Yeah,
It looks
right.
more violent.
Yes, Yes,
It
it
has
is
more
what he's been doing to me.
excitement.
Yes,
It looks
right.
wonderful, except let's just change this.
You see, some guys don't need a red shirt to generate excitement.
all right. I should never have worn this shirt. I know it was a big mistake.
Now, you see, watching
My
your
wife
dad
made me
work
wear it.
is an education, an absolute education.
Well, this kind of inking is known as broad brush inking.
And it covers up a lot of defects.
Right.
All right, so I have defects in my shirt.
No,
and
I
my
needed his
penciling.
inking
Right.
defects.
Okay, all right.
Yeah. And this is based on the Japanese brush style.
Stroke.
Right, right.
I
And you're doing it
I
darn
was
well.
very
Yeah.
much influenced by a Japanese
What was that
instructor.
guy's name?
I don't remember, but he was on PBS way back, and since that time I have had a constant influence.
Johnny, I've never seen you ink like this.
You
Have
mean
I?
for
Did you?
speed? No, I don't think you have.
I've never seen you ink fast in my life.
Right.
Why didn't you do it when you were working with me? But no, I mean, I've never seen you use this Japanese style. Have
No,
I?
right, because
Son
most
of
of
a
the
gun,
time,
it's
most of the
great.
time I only do it when we do sketches.
And most of
It's
the time he has to work
great.
like
Yeah.
this when he works.
It's actually not a bad. If I were to do my own publication
Yeah.
someday, I think I would try it this way. When I do regular comics, I feel a little bit constrained to do
When
it
you-
tighter.
When you did Captain America and the Falcon in the 67,
This was
you were
somewhat
doing
like
it as
it.
fast as you could possibly do it.
Big
you were
brush.
knocking out.
Yes, I
That
use
was
the big brush.
fast stuff. You were
Yes.
doing it real quick.
Exactly. There's a lot of truth to that.
You ran out of ink?
Do I
You
have
know
to
one?
do the
No, you don't.
spider
have to.
legs on the hair?
You know, I'm so glad you're doing this because ever since you've been art director at Marvel, which seems to me like the past 1,000 years, you haven't been doing as much artwork, as many strips.
No, it's true.
And there are so many younger readers who, you know, that you're a name, but they don't know you. They don't know what you've done.
I think that you mentioned something before about his stuff not being on the cutting edge. That's only because he hasn't done anything.
That's
yet.
exactly
Well, he
right.
I think
mentioned
that he would
That's
be right back
exactly
where he was
right.
supposed to be if he
I
did.
mean, when I see this now, I think it's the greatest thing because anybody watching this is going to say, stop art directing and start drawing strips, will you?
Well, I have had requests to get out of the office and go back.
Yeah, by
go
your
back
boss.
to the freelance.
By your boss. Get out of here.
I think Don DeFalco would love to see it. But no, I am not looking for tight deadlines and short deadlines and long hours. I am very content to have a 9-to-5 job. I still do too much work on weekends as it is.
But I must admit you're doing something good because you are helping and teaching so many new artists.
Yeah, we have that training, that
He's still
apprentice
teaching me.
program.
Yeah. So instead of one John Romita, we're getting hundreds of whoever they may be
Yeah.
that have been trained by you.
So if there's a consolation in it, it would be that, right?
But I must admit, just for sentiment and for selfishness, man, would I like to be doing a strip with you.
We should be doing something together, Stan. That's true. If I weren't so lazy and you weren't so busy, we would do it.
Well, I could always unbusy myself. I would try to for you. In fact,
should.
Can you
Any-
unlazy yourself? You're not
any-
lazy.
anybody watching this cassette, if in the future you and I do something,
They'll say,
they will know this is where it
this is
started.
the moment, right?
Do you know what a collector's item this is? Oh, man, forget about the table being at the Smithsonian.
Yeah.
Why, that cassette. Hang on to them. Go out and buy a dozen more because you're looking at a piece of history.
That was the birth of a, right. We could do it, Stan. I mean, something like the Femizons.
I
Do
think
you
we should-
remember the Femizons?
Yeah.
Oh, man. We still may get a movie out of that. There have been people that were interested in doing
Oh,
that.
boy,
as a
I'd
movie.
love to hear. I'd
That
love
was
to
a
see
strip that Johnny and I did years ago about a society in the future that was ruled by women. And
Never
the men
happened.
were subservient.
Men were slaves.
Yeah, and there was an underground movement. There was one woman who sided with the men.
Yeah.
She wasn't so dumb.
Right.
And there was one heroic guy who didn't want to be a slave, and the two of them conspired. And it was written so dramatically, well, by my favorite author, but it was drawn by Johnny, and those women were so gorgeous. It was done in black and white, wasn't it, for a book
Yeah,
called Savage
right,
Tales?
Yeah. We did it in
Yeah,
tone.
do you still have copies of it?
I have the original art just sold. I just sold the original art to somebody last year.
Uh-huh.
But I still have some copies. It was
good. Well,
Savage
save
Tales
them.
#1.
Yeah, save them,
Yeah.
because sooner or later I'm going to meet one movie producer of great vision and taste, and who knows.
I want to do a Spider-Man thing with you guys, Spider-Man job with you guys. I want to pencil it and you can ink it.
Oh,
I think maybe you could write it if
We've
you
Yeah,
talked
you've
ab-
been
feel so
saying
inclined.
that.
We've
You've
talked
been
about
saying
that for years, right? Yeah, I think we'll ever get it done.
Well, I'm always available. I can always find an hour.
He's got new boots, huh? No
Oh, well, he's
form-fitting
got
boots.
biker boots on. Whatever you want to do. See, that's my
Oh, you
shtick,
had them
'cause
folded down?
Yeah,
I
that's
missed
all right.
it. Okay.
You're the art director. You should know this.
Mr. Technical over here.
No, he's
I
right.
slop something down and you fix it. That's my kind of job. I like that.
Johnny, I've never seen you ink. You know the only time I remember seeing you ink like this? Do you remember that strip we did 1,000,000 years ago in a book called Menace about the guy who puts a hood on his head and he can't get it off?
Yeah.
It seems to me, as I remember, that was inked like this, kind
Yes,
of with heavy
yes.
strokes and dark black.
Well, did you write the Captain America stuff he did?
Some of it.
Yeah.
Maybe
no, I
most
mean way
of it.
back. The
He
stuff
did it
he
all.
first did.
Yeah, I think I wrote
You
most
did the
of it.
writing?
Oh, the first, you
first
mean
stuff
the
in
ones in the
50s.
50s? Yeah. Well, he wrote the other one too,
Yeah.
Stan, right? I think he wrote.
Yeah, he was doing it.
I really have trouble remembering what I wrote. Now, I have to look. Somebody will show me a story, and I have to look at the first page to see if my name is on it.
Yeah.
And even then, I remember there were some that I didn't sign my name on, so I can't remember. If it looks real good, I figure I did it, and who's going to know?
There you go.
Oh, hey, that's great. Now, what you left
You
out...
put your name on top.
Don't you need another speed line there?
No, no. You
Really,
want to
you
keep that. You want to
satisfied?
keep that
How many art
illuminated.
directors do we have at this table?
And you don't even want to bother with a gun, with a little finishing the
No,
gun
that
barrel?
should. See, that's where we were
This is
forced to
great.
go darker, and that should be nice and illuminated. A white.
Oh, I see.
streak.
It's because there's a burst here.
Right.
So I've got it. See, what's throwing me off is the penciling underneath.
Oh,
Now,
right.
when I take this
Right.
home and frame it, and I'll send you the bill for the framing. When
Right.
I take it home and frame it, should I erase the penciling or should
Yeah,
I leave it
I
the way
would.
it is?
No, no, you don't want to erase this. Yeah, you can erase some parts, like there, and leave
Yeah.
the rest of it on there.
Well, how would I know which parts to erase
The
and
parts
which to
that,
leave?
that look like they're cluttering up the light source.
Uh-huh.
Now, we should say this to Stan.
Oh,
Oh,
that's
Stan?
really
Oh,
great.
you get this? What do I get from you, Stan?
You get the right to appear here in front of the entire world,
Oh, boy.
to be seen and appreciated and heralded and applauded, lauded, and to receive your accolades.
You should be a writer, Stan.
Someday, maybe. Hey, this is just terrific. All right, I've gotten my fee,
I
and
think
now
you
I'm
did
going to
more
go
work
home.
on
Look,
that
you
than I
guys,
did.
you've got about another few minutes to fill. Do whatever you want. You know
Okay.
what?
We'll do a little pin-up.
Actually, what do you think we ought to do for, let's say, the next 5 minutes before we knock off?
How about if you
What do you
draw,
feel like
draw
doing?
something, Stan, and I'll write. How about that?
Remember you used to do those drawings on the backs of pages?
I remember, but I don't have my right implement with me.
Wait a minute. How about
really.
if I draw
need a
5
special
lines and you
pen.
make something out of it?
Hey, that
Remember
sounds
that
good.
game?
That sounds good.
You
I
know,
what
you put
mean.
the 5 lines down, and he'll
No,
make
no,
some-
don't trust him. He's dangerous.
Remember that game
Right.
at the party? You throw 5 lines down somewhere and make it. Oh boy.
No, you see, he's
I wanna make it easy
he's being
for you.
soft on us. You want
Oh,
to
do I
try
get
that?
one? Wait a second.
Can we do that?
Why not?
Oh, you see, he's clever. He turned it to his own devices.
Little cartoon.
Yeah.
All right, so he's got a stupid hat.
Son of a gun.
Too much expression as
Too much- right.
Realized I wouldn't like it.
You've all got to get the Will Eisner interview to know what he's talking about. I am a pretty good cartoonist, right?
I'm telling you,
I realize
Stan,
that.
great layouts.
Look
Great
at
layouts,
He
Stan.
was easy on you.
All right, now
That's
why don't-
cheating. Try
Why
it
don't
again.
you do one for your dad to do? Make it tough.
Go ahead.
Make it tough.
That's cute. Yeah.
Go ahead. Give
I've
it a
always
shot.
wanted to do this.
But
I'm
let,
probably-
me, let me take this one out of your way.
Right. I'm gonna give up in
Clear the
abject,
field.
in abject fear.
Art Cardi, right?
Right.
There we go.
Come on.
All right. No, that's cruel. That's isn't that
Go
rotten?
ahead.
That's pretty easy, I would
It's
say.
gravel girth.
I see the whole drawing.
That's not a line. That's all right. That's 4, right?
Press hard enough. I want everybody to see
Get a
every
better
line.
pencil on that. You're running out of lead on
Very
that.
funny. Very funny.
You're running out of lead on that one.
Yeah. All right. Let me try.
Gee, they're
this.
all running out of lead.
Very
I got a
funny.
sharp-
It is.
Someday when we do
I got a Brooklyn sharpener here,
It
guys.
is going to be.
There we go.
someday
I'll
when we
show you
do a
what to
big
do with
budget
this.
interview, we're going to have a pencil sharpening.
I'll
We
show
don't
you-
use.
I'll show
Who's
you.
gonna
Who's
big
going to
time.
sweep this up?
You want to see how to be clever, John? Watch this.
This is a Bensonhurst sharpener, guys. And I don't want to see the guy have to clean this mess up.
Oh, well,
This is
just
Veronica Lake with
shows, yeah,
glasses.
don't mess around with Dad. I can see that. That's great. That's
There you
really great.
You can't fool the old fox.
Oh, that's not fair. You're showing up your son on camera here, Ace.
I hope there are some people who aren't too young to know who Veronica Lake was, but she was an actress.
This is what you look like with the hair
over
over
her
eyes.
hair that way, yeah.
Right. Actually, we've got characters in comics that I should have more properly have used the comic reference.
Yeah, this is.
There have been characters in the many of the strips.
Everything that's being done has been done before, and it's been done based on you guys. Trust me.
Johnny, we have a couple of minutes more. Who wants to just draw a great villain's face? Just make up a villain.
Make up a villain?
Yeah.
Need another piece of paper?
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
There you go.
You're a peach.
No sacrifice is too great.
Want to design a villain?
Yeah, let's design a villain.
All right, should we have a patch?
I'll leave
One
that up
eye.
to you.
There's a character called Unocchio that I created.
Unocchio.
Well,
based on some Don in New York City. So I like the idea of having one eye. So let's give him one eye.
You want to just have the eye sewn up?
Like Popeye?
You guys can finish talking. There won't be time to draw a picture.
Draw! Want to make him old or young?
Any way you like.
You're the boss. I just want to kill a little time here.
Yeah.
Oh, we're running out of...
Creating a
We have a couple of minutes.
Creating a character is a very interesting exercise for comic artists. They do it sometimes absent-mindedly, but always. All of the years of experience that have come into all the characterization they've done comes to bear in this kind of situation. You say, I've got to do 2 pages today. I don't have time to go doing character sketches, so you do it on the fly. Many times, secondary characters, not always main characters. But
all right, so you got one eye closed.
Yeah.
How come villains always have bony noses? I don't understand that. Is that
Why are villains always ugly?
No, a lot of them aren't.
All right, so he's a handsome, bony-faced guy with one eye.
Yeah. It's even more insidious.
I had more fun doing Fu Manchu, not Fu Manchu, what's his name?
Oh, the claw.
No.
The yellow claw?
No, look at this. I'm running out of...
I know who you mean.
The Mandarin.
The Mandarin.
I did the Mandarin in Iron Man.
I should have remembered that.
And he'd been done so many times
Mandarin.
before, but because he has a little beard and he's got the stash and he's got those eyes...
But you made him fairly good looking.
That was
A lot
fun,
of things for you to play with.
He didn't look like Ming the Merciless under
So, you know, that's what I'm ending up doing here. I'm doing the Mandarin here.
You're not unproud of your son's prowess, artistic
No,
prowess,
I
are
am-
you, Johnny?
knowing how dangerous it was for him to get into the business that his father was in,
Yeah.
and how many chances he took.
Oh, I got
I'm very
it.
lucky and very
Oh, good.
proud, because a lot of young fellows try to do what their fathers do and don't succeed, and it's a very
That's right.
dangerous situation.
Why do you fight me on it all the time? I don't understand it.
Well,
Well,
I didn't
because he
want
doesn't
you to
want you
risk
to
it.
get that much better than he is.
He says, go into
Well, it's too
construction.
late for that now, I'm afraid. Too late.
Why did you become an artist? Because I can't sing and dance, right?
And
We're going to give you a stand-up routine also, and this is only the beginning.
But don't bump.
I didn't realize you were auditioning here.
yeah,
Well, I was supposed to be...
Hey,
Tony,
that's good. That is really
I was
good.
supposed to take Tony Danza's spot, but he got there before I did.
well, you speak too clearly.
Well, I think nothing can top that, so
Yeah.
unless your dad wants to add another line or
God,
so.
ink
We've only
over
got
it,
about,
make it
You want
better.
me to ink
we've
over
only
that?
got about 50 seconds.
Do something. Give
Well,
him big
they
shoulders.
can go off while we're inking, right?
All right, I guess
Let them
so.
go off while we're inking. I'll just put the...
Now, is this still that Japanese technique? This is
Yeah,
This
well,
is the... No, this is the... this is the sumo set.
Very good. Incidentally, guys, in case we get cut off because the tape runs out at some point, I just want to say now, because I don't want to end it without saying that, what an absolute delight it was having Romita Pear and Romita Fee. I don't know how to say it in Italian. Johnny.
That's close enough.
On the show, how proud I am of both of you, and how much I've enjoyed this, and how happy I am that you've given the world evidence of why you are definitely considered to be two of the comic book greats. And thanks a million for being here with us.
Thank you, Stan. It was a pleasure to be here.
Yes, I imagine it must have been.
That was my line.
All right, now since I said the goodbye, you might as well keep drawing. Who knows how long it's going to last.
we'll play ourselves
Wait till the
off
lights
the
are
stage.
dimming.
Is that my eyes?
Is that timing? Is that dramatic?
Unbelievable.
This
One
is
more
great.
second, one more second. I need another minute.